is Randi Lincoln, and welcome to Randi on the Road. My guest today is Rob Staley, and Rob Staley is the founder of the Crossing School. The Crossing School, do you know what it is? It's right here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I hope you're as excited about this school and what it's doing in Fort Wayne as I am. Rob, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being here today. We have so much to talk about. When I found out about the Crossing School, I could not believe that I didn't even know you were in existence here. And as I've worked with my networking groups of 30 to 60 people, when I ask how many people know what the Crossing School is, maybe 4 or 5, but they're not quite sure. So tell us about you and how the Crossing School even came to be.
Well, thank you, Randi. It's a pleasure to be here. After losing my father in a tragic accident at the age of 10, I became rebellious against God. And we were a church-going family, raised in a quasi-Christian home. We had awareness of God. And I told God, I said, I don't understand why I have to live without a dad. And my dad was extremely close to me. He was a real dad. He was a dad that played basketball with me. He was involved in my life. He had a Harley Davidson. He ran a tree service. We did all kinds of things together, but my dad was gone. And it was a heartbreak for me. So I grew up without a dad, became rebellious against God, made some real bad choices, got in a lot of trouble in high school. I was a horrible student. I was a rebellious, angry kid deep within. And the only thing that held me together in my life was athletics. And then I had coaches in my life that walked me through life and mentored me. Until the age of 17, after a long night of partying, a friend said to me, let's go to church with my grandma. She goes to a wild church and they dance and scream and play the tambourine and they have some interesting things going on. And I said, sounds like fun, let's go. So we went. And of course, God in His sovereignty knew exactly what was going to happen there. But as these people are playing and the band is singing and they're doing their church service, my buddy stood up with his girlfriend and said, I'm out of here. And I said, where are you going? He said, to the altar. And I said, whoa, whoa, what do you mean you're going to the altar? And he said, I just had this flashback and I reflect, we really need God in the worst way. Are you coming? And I said, no. So he went to the altar with his girlfriend. For probably the next half hour, this pastor yelled, screamed, pointed, and I was about the only person in the crowd that didn't go forward because in those Pentecostal days, they all go to the altar. So I had an opportunity, and I stood up and I said, God, I've been angry, I've been rebellious, and it's over. The battle's over. I'm going to give my life to you. And at that point, I was not one of those guys that kind of felt God or kind of thought I knew God. I literally had a transformation that happened on the spot, 180 degrees. I turned from walking away from God and turned to walk right towards God. And He grabbed me and said, there's a new life and a new path. That's the experience I had as a teenager. To fast forward, after going to college and playing basketball and then getting an education, why am I running the Crossing today? Because I was a Crossing kid. Yeah. And I knew that something happened in my life that changed me forever. And as I'm dealing with high school kids and 20 years as a high school principal, 25 years of service in the public school, loving every bit of it and believing in our public schools, I knew that there were a group of kids that we were not touching. Yeah. There was just a group that we knew that there's a layer of kids that they're angry. Most of them didn't have dads. They were using drugs, sexually active, in and out of jail. And I said, God, I was like that, but you changed my life. I can't do what you did to me in the public school. So help me create an environment where I can grab these kids outside the public school and create something to happen that will change their life like you changed mine. Because God, these kids need what I have. So I'm sitting in my office expelling kids, suspending kids, dealing with drugs and everything. And I'm looking at these kids and I'm looking at nothing but a mirror. I can see myself. This is me. I'm talking to myself. And as I'm talking to these kids, I would say to them, this is probably the next thing you're going to do. And this is the next thing you're going to do. And this will probably happen. And then this will happen. And they go, Mr. Staley, how do you know? And I go, I was there. I walked through your shoes. It bothered me so much that I started to go visit my kids at the county jail. And my friend who's a sheriff gave me a badge and said, you're now the assistant chaplain. And I said, what does that mean? He said, you go behind the walls. You can spend time in the cells and the day rooms. And I said, good, I'm going to do that every Sunday night. And to this day, even last Sunday night, I was at the county jail on Sunday nights because As I started to walk through the jail and I ran into most of the people there I knew, they were my former students from years back, I started asking questions. Where did we go wrong? What can we do differently? And if we could rewrite the entire script tomorrow, what would it look like? Well, they started giving me incredible, valuable information like, we're really slow in school, we need to be self-paced. Can we use computers? It would help us determine our level and then start at a lower level. Can we not just sit in a lecture classroom? Can we start doing things with our hands? Can we work? Can we do hard labor? We like to work. Can we get an adult around us that would help us through life like a dad, like a surrogate dad? Because that's what they're crying out for.
Oh, yeah.
And then they said something that shocked me. Can we sit on couches like in a living room and just talk about life? And oh, by the way, I don't believe in God, but there's got to be something going on out here bigger than me that I don't understand. Can you help us understand who God is? So we did. So I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And I went home and told my wife, I'm still a high school principal. I'm expelling kids during the day. I get on the phone at night and I start calling every kid I expelled. And I said, I want you to meet me at this warehouse. And I just rented a warehouse in Goshen, Indiana. And we're going to have a chat. And I want you to join this little school that I'm starting. I bought 6 computers. And we're going to talk about life. And we're going to do academics in a different way. And we're going to talk about work and job training. On December the 8th, in 2003, I started with the 6 kids. One was a sniper shooter at the mall that shot 20-some times a high-powered rifle into the Concord Mall. Another one was a kid with a .45 that told people in the school system, neighboring school system, he was going to kill them on a school bus. I said, I want them all. I want every one of them. There isn't any kid that's too bad to be in our school. I want kids with felonies. I don't care what it is. I want them all. Because I believe that we can show our community that we serve a God that is so powerful that He can take the worst case scenario, the biggest mess, and He can turn it into nothing but a golden treasure. And we think we have the opportunity to find and deal with a diamond in the rough. They just have a lot of charcoal around them. It's got to be chipped away, but we can make this happen. So we hired 2 teachers, set up 6 computers. I started calling students in. And so my area buddies, who were all area principals at the time, would call me on the phone. And they would say, hey, Staley, will you take this kid? He was dealing drugs, or this kid's a gang leader. I said, send him on down. So they called it the little warehouse. So they sent these kids from all these neighboring schools to this warehouse, and all at once, stories started to happen. And God started to grab these kids, and transformation started to happen. These kids started weeping. They started repenting. They started to really understand who God was. They began a journey. Some of them heard the door and opened the door and had a relationship, and things started to happen. Kids are starting to graduate. Kids are starting to get jobs. Things are starting to happen in the community, and the community is going, I don't know what's going on down that little warehouse down there, but whatever it is, we can't figure it out, but just keep sending kids down there. So we recruited 6, and then we went to 10. We ended the year with 27 kids. Started the second year with 50, and then went to 100, and then 200, then 300. And area schools started to call and say, I don't know what you're doing down there, but whatever it is, it's working. Let's start a school in our community. So we have marched now around northern Indiana. We now have 16 campuses as of a couple weeks ago. 2 new campuses starting in Anderson, Indiana. And what's really fun about this is that our campus is open in a way that we grab the community and say, community, we need you to surround this thing with prayer and resources and a facility. If you can provide that, I'll bring in the programming. And furthermore, I want to bring in the public school. I don't want to be a private school that's in competition. I am a private school that was created for the mere purpose of supporting the public school system. So we are partners with the public schools. We don't do vouchers. We aren't a charter school. We are a partner with the public school. In every community, we have 16 campuses. We are a partner with a public school, except for in Fort Wayne, Indiana. In Fort Wayne, Indiana, after several conversations, the administration felt that maybe they didn't understand quite, but they felt that this was not something that they wouldn't partner with. And so we went out of the city and found a school corporation that was willing to fund the kids in downtown Fort Wayne, add them to their ADM count, which is a funding formula through the State Department, yes, take a risk on all the data that they were going to be pulling these kids in and enrolling them in their school, and that they were going to assume the risk of the data because they believed in our program so much. They knew that kids' lives were being saved. We were reducing the amount of suicide, which is a horrific thing in high school.
Absolutely.
Kids were reducing crime and violence. fewer kids were dying, fewer kids are going to jail at $40,000 a year at tax dollar pay, and all at once kids are getting jobs, they're in internships, and things are starting to happen. So we can't explain it all, but we can just say this: God is alive and well, and we serve a powerful God. And once you invite God to the table, and we will never compromise that. I've had public schools say to me, you know, I really believe you're doing a good thing, you're a good principal, and you understand school, but this whole little God thing, you know, that little family time you have every day, by the way, every single day, every campus does this for 30 minutes.
Yes.
That little God thing you do over there, if you could just cut that out, we're in. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I guess it'll be a short meeting, because if I cut that little piece out, I've cut out the whole fabric and the whole heartbeat of everything we're doing. So I'm sorry, but we cannot be effective without God, and we will not push Him to the side. He will be front and center in everything we do. Now, what we do, you have to understand, is this is not a Christian school. It's a school run by Christian people.
Yes.
It's a school for the lost. It's a school for kids who are messy. It's a school for kids who are full of crime and full of sin and full of ugliness. And we invite them in and say, look, we're not going to fix you. We're just going to love you. And we're going to love you unconditionally. We're going to pour into your life. And if you go to jail, we're going to go to jail and visit you. If you're on probation, we'll go to your probation. If you go to court, we're going to go to court with you. If you get injured, if somebody dies, we're always going to be at your side, because in our ministry, we believe that we don't fix kids, we love kids into the kingdom. And whatever they do, and even the bad choices they make, we put our arm around them and we say, we're going to get through this, because I'm going to show you that God is going to be a part of your life, and He's big enough to fix your problems.
Absolutely.
So we just keep loving our kids into the kingdom.
Yes.
We never give up on them. If a kid gets mad and he quits our school and he leaves, we always say, you're always invited back.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and the number of times that God probably wouldn't have leave me because of the things that I did in my life, He is always at the gate every time I want to return. So we are at the gate, and if they want to come back at any quarter, they walk back in the door and we re-enroll them in our school. We will not give up on our kids in our city. We have had 17 young adults that are killed by gunfire alone.
Yes.
In this city.
Right here.
17. So how many suicides have we had? How many kids have we had locked up? Like in Elkhart, Indiana, 3 of our students who chose to make bad decisions are locked up for life. How many kids are locked up in this city? How many kids are dying on the street? How many kids are just involved in crime and corruption and headed for eternal death? I mean, even if they can even live, you know, through life here and not die. So our obligation is that we have been blessed with a facility in this city. We've been blessed with a funding formula coming from a neighboring school corporation that believes in our program, that wants to invest in us. We've been blessed with people like you and others that say, I want to hear the story, because we will not give up. We will be in the heart of the city, winning these kids over and finding these kids in every corner, under every rock, wherever we can find them, but they're all invited to our school.
Now, Rob, I know that there's a lot of opportunities for anybody who hears this story to come in and help, whether it be in funding, whether it be in helping, whether it be in teaching, there's so many opportunities. What are they, and how do we get a hold of you to start that?
The best way to visit our site to really find out our whole story is to go to our website, which is www.crossingeducation.com. Okay. Crossingeducation.com. And yeah, what do we need? Boy, you know what we need? The community has to endorse this, and they have to wrap their arms around us. And it looks like this. We need kids who need dads, and I'm talking girls and boys. Mm-hmm. And by the way, a whole lot of our girls have babies. Mm-hmm. So now they need child care. We have girls that don't know how to raise a baby. They need a mentor. We need life coaches, somebody who says, look, I may not be this strong Christian person, but I can help somebody. And I'm a business guy and I have this skill. So why don't you come in and grab one of our kids and we'll hook you up, and you just be a life coach. And you know what? Johnny needs to know how to keep a checkbook, and Johnny needs to know how to navigate the system. There's all these things in life that you can't imagine that kids don't know. And it's like an unwritten script out there that they have never read. And when you spend time with them, they just come alive and they light up because they're just so excited somebody's investing in their life. So mentors, spiritual coaches. We have some of our kids that are on a strong spiritual journey. Some are not born-again believers. However, they are walking the path, and they're trying to figure out who God is. So let's just coach them and direct them down that new path that God has created. And we need funding. We raise about $25,000 a year in this city. Now, $25,000 a year, and we're going to be educating well over 100 kids this year off the street. And we hope it's 200 next year, and we hope it's 500 the following year. We will not give up, and we are not leaving town. We will not leave until this entire mess is cleaned up, which will be never. But what we need, about $25,000 only in donations a year to run our facility costs and our utilities. We need our mentors. And then we need people that are want to serve on our board. We have a board of directors it's a dynamic group of people that are networking. We need people who can network to tell our stories, like you that heard our story and said, look, this is great. Can you help us out? How can we network with a group of people that can just allow us to share our story over and over and over? Because this is a story about the glory of God.
Amen. And
we use education as an avenue to bring kids into the door, which is a need that they have. And we use job skills. By the way, speaking of job skills, we do everything they say you're not supposed to do. So I asked my kids one day, if we could start our own business, what would it look like? And they said, oh man, Mr. Staley, we'd like to run chainsaws and cut down big trees. And I go, well, I don't think we're supposed to do that, but let's look into it. We looked into it, hired a tree expert, talked to our insurance company, got all the insurance you can possibly get, started writing grants, buying equipment, and we now have a full-scale tree service running in 2 cities, South Bend and Elkhart, contracted with the Public Parks Department. We're cutting down 280 trees to extend the runway at the Elkhart Airport. Our kids are now with South Bend Parks Department cutting down up to 2,000 trees a year with the Parks Department, and just brought our team over here to Fort Wayne, and we are over at the, what is the name of the statue on the river over there? We were just over there, yes, cutting down all the trees around the statue. The Parks Department met us there. They could not believe the performance. We had about 50 students that we brought over, probably 10 of them from Elkhart with our tree expert team, our students, with our adults. And then we had probably 25 to 30 of our kids, and we all joined. You know why? Because serving our city in our fluorescent shirts adds value to our life. It's not just what we can give the city, it's what the city can give back to us. And when our kids are off the street and they go out, who can ever believe we served over 5,000 hours last year? Who could ever believe you could take high school kids who are thinking about themselves only, who are making bad choices, running with the wrong people, and they come to school and the first question they're asking now is, where are we serving today? Why would they ask that question? The reason why they ask the question is it adds so much value to them to say, I feel good about myself because I just helped this person. Absolutely. That's what they need. They need, yes, something to say, I feel value in my life.
Yes. Well, and I know that that success story is just amazing, and that the city of Fort Wayne, there were thank yous all over the newspaper for that. Had I have known, I would have had you at my house, because I have trees that need to come down, and I can't get them. So we'll talk about that.
Well, our goal is we're going to start a tree service in Fort Wayne, Indiana next year. That's what we want to do.
Awesome. Well, what you're doing, and I know that this is to God be the glory, that you're the messenger that He chose. Mm-hmm. And we're very blessed that you said, yep, I understand that, because I was that person. I mean, the call on your life is strong, but the answer that you're seeing is stronger. Mm. To know that, you know, the school system is given an allotted amount of money per child, but when that child doesn't attend school, they lose that allotment of money. When you take that child in, that school system gets that allotment of money. And when they graduate, that only raises the stats of the school, because those are viable graduating students. So, you know, what a great asset to any school system to have you as part of that. So, you know, I think that's just a matter of time. Seeing Fort Wayne, seeing the value of that, because the value is that we have, excuse me, incredible people coming through this. And, you know, I apologize that you had me in tears right out of the gate, because I know that it's just a strong call, mm-hmm. And it's a strong need. But let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. I know some kids that need your program. How do I go about getting them in there? How do I bring them to you?
Well, the easiest way to do that is to go to our website, and there's a tab at the very bottom that says enrollment. It's a card. You put your name and address and phone number on it, and you're in. That's how hard it is to enroll in our school. And so you go to our website at crossingeducation.com. The other thing we would like to do is we have what we call orientation meetings where we have enrollment nights, and we have an enrollment night coming up on Monday, June the 3rd at 5 to 7 o'clock p.m., Monday, June the 3rd, 5 to 7 p.m. at the Primetime Center, which is our location where we're at, right across the street from Southside High School. So that will be a night where people can come in like an open house environment. They can talk to our teachers. They can learn more about who we are. They can fill out the application. We will submit their application for funding, and we're going to be up and running next year. We expect to increase almost double in size next year. Another thing we need in the community, we need a building big enough for our kids. We're at Primetime, and Primetime Youth for Christ has been a beautiful partner. They've blessed us in more ways than we can imagine. We've outgrown the building.
Oh, yes.
So now we need a building we'd like to have anywhere from, around 5,000 square feet. It could be open space. It needs to be in the neighborhood where our kids are hanging out, usually in the southeast corner or something, or even downtown area. But please, community, if you could help us with a building at a reasonable cost, because our community has to raise the money for that facility, we would like to have a gathering place. And eventually we want to have a gathering place on the north side of town, on the west side of town, and in South Bend. We have 4 campuses in the city, and we have started a school in the county JJC for the juveniles. So we now run a school. We run 2 lockup facilities, as a matter of fact. We run a school right in the JJC, and the judge is now telling kids, you can either go to the Department of Corrections or you can go down the hallway to the crossing. Nice. You have your choice. So it's now an option that's saving thousands of dollars in the city. And when kids are returning back from the DOC, Department of Corrections, they were coming through that gateway and they're coming into our school, and then we transition them back into the public school because we are a partner with the public schools.
Right. Now tell me something. Age limits, lowest end, high end?
High school age. So we're 9th grade through 12th grade, although that means usually kids in the age of 14. And then we'll take kids if they're in graduation reach. Some of our students are 20, 21 years old if they're really close to graduation. Now, some students may say, look, what do I do? I'm 19 years old and I have 5 credits. I've been locked up, been in trouble, I've been a dropout. You know what we'd say to them? Come and join us anyways. We'll figure this one out. The first thing we're going to do is test you and look at your ability level. Then we're going to put you on what we call a career track. It's probably not reasonable to think you're going to get a high school diploma like the rest of our students. By the way, 17 of our kids at our Fort Wayne campus are graduating this year. 17 kids. 17 kids that maybe would have died, yes, or had more children, or been involved in some poverty situation where, yes, we're going to pay for them. 17 kids are now have their feet on a path with a post-secondary plan. Several of them have jobs, and they've all served an internship in a business for 9 weeks. Wow. So then what we would say to a kid who came in with 19 years of age with 5 credits, we'd say, look, this is a ministry as well as a school, so we want to be a part of your life. We know you're not going to get a diploma, but we're going to put you on what we call a career track. Career track says you're going to be on a McGraw-Hill software program. We're going to tape test you, and we're going to give you 20 high school elective credits. So it's just like being in regular high school with the rest of the students, but when it's all said and done, we're preparing you for a GED. If you can't get the high school diploma, you get a GED. Now, if I graduate with a GED, then you're going to be a partner with our strong partnership with Ivy Tech. And in almost everything we do, we have almost all of our kids are getting dual credit Ivy Tech. Our kids are going to Ivy Tech after they leave. They're getting certifications from Ivy Tech. Nice. We love our partnership in every city in the state of Indiana with Ivy Tech. So when you have a GED, you can go to the next level. One of the biggest crimes we're committing in education, in my opinion, is that we are stamping kids out of high schools with a certificate of completion. That means I didn't get a diploma and I didn't get a GED. I got a thing called certificate of completion. It is a death sentence for our kids. They cannot go to Ivy Tech. They cannot go to any post-secondary. They literally are dead in the water as far as growth. They're going to have to go find a job someplace. They don't have a diploma, and they can't go to the next gate. We will not give our kids a certificate of completion. We will not do it. We will only give them, help them through the GED process or give them a high school Core 40 diploma.
Congratulations on everything that you've done in so many places. So what year did the crossing start?
The crossing started in December of 2003, and I was still a high school principal at Concord High School, and I would call these kids at night, and we started that year. And then in 2004, in May, shortly after we started this, 6 months later, I went home and told my wife, I said, honey, I need your blessing, but I need to walk away from my position as a high school principal because those kids are calling me This is bigger than anything I've ever done before in my life. And it means zero salary.
Yes.
Zero. We have $0. And she said, you know, we'll sell this and sell that. And I got a side job at a church that blessed me and allowed me to be an administrator in a church. And they walked me through, and I made just a little bit of money through the crossing the third year. I had to raise enough money to pay myself. And so we raised enough money to pay myself a little salary the third year. And then since that time, our board has gained momentum. We now have a national board of directors. We are taking this program, this model, across the United States. We're not stopping here. There's no reason we'd stop in northern Indiana. We have now partnered with the Kroc Center. The McDonald's Foundation builds the Kroc Centers. We are now the educational component in South Bend in the Kroc Center. We'll be speaking at the National Kroc Convention in Chicago in September. And one of the goals that we have is that we will be the educational model in all the 27, I think there's 27 Kroc Centers in the United States, that we will be the educational model. They have an educational program in a school in the Kroc Center, but they've never figured out what to do with it.
Yes.
So we now have 45 kids in South Bend in the Kroc Center going to school. So we've got ideas and visions of how we're going to take this model and take it across the United States and let God do whatever He's got to do to make it successful.
Well, and not only does it work, but when you partner with these kids, this is a 24/7 job. This isn't just a when the doors are open kind of job. And it takes special people to do that, to mentor these people, but it changes their lives, and it changes our lives because it puts more productive citizens right back into our city.
Absolutely. Our mission is assisting struggling individuals to become contributing members of their community.
Yes.
Through education, job training, and faith-based mentoring. So as we continue to, one of the needs that we have in every community is we have homeless kids everywhere. Homeless kids everywhere. Who would ever believe in Fort Wayne, Indiana that there's a serious homeless issue with high school kids? So we have so many homeless kids over in our South Bend Elkhart area that one of the public schools said to me, you know what, we know you do such a good job with our kids and a lot of them are homeless. Here are the keys to a 105-acre farm. We want you to take the keys and we want you to have a teacher live in the home. And there's a farmhouse with a barn, and we want your homeless kids to live in our farmhouse with a teacher. So we now have homeless kids that are moving in regularly in this barn, or in the house. We'll take up to 6 kids in the house. The kids are now have got together with the area farmers. They're going to be planting sweet corn. They're going to be raising garden boxes, which we have a produce company. We raise produce in Kokomo. And they're going to be raising chickens, and they're going to have hogs, and they're going to have animals, and they're going to run the entire farm. It's going to be a self-sustainable business, and they're going to have to make revenue doing it. And then Elkhart Community Schools are busing kids out to the farm where we're putting up a classroom, and they're going to run environmental education classroom, and our kids at the crossing will be facilitating that whole program.
Well, and that's the genius of this, is that you don't have to come up with this. The kids do.
That's it.
The kids come up with it, and you put together the people to make this happen. I know that the tree service, now I'm not sure if it's already in works or not, said, now that we're doing this, why don't we just open a lumber mill and provide the wood, and boom.
That's exactly right. Our kids run the business, so we have a business meeting. We're sitting around a table one day, and they go, look, we're cutting down trees, we have all this wood, and we're selling firewood, and they sold $5,000 last year. This year they have a goal of $10,000 in firewood, and the warehouse is full. And they said, but we have these huge, beautiful logs. What can we do? And some kid says, well, how do they make lumber in the lumber yard? Some other kid says, I don't know, let's do some research. So they went back and came and said, you know what, I think if you have a sawmill and you can buy these things, we can roll our logs up and just start layering this stuff. And we can sell our oak trees and our cherry trees and our walnut trees. So now we've started a lumber yard. We do have the warehouse. The warehouse is just being set up. We have the wood miser we bought through a grant, through a wood miser out of Indianapolis. And our kids are now going to be selling their hardwoods to the RV industry in Elkhart. And we're starting a pallet business because you can make pallets out of green wood. So we've just had some industry come to us and say, look, we'll buy every pallet you can make. So we have a warehouse in Elkhart with all the wood we have. Wood's free. We cut down our trees. We have all unlimited wood. We're getting a warehouse in South Bend. Our kids will be making pallets in South Bend. We want to buy a warehouse or rent a warehouse in Fort Wayne. We'll ship the wood over and we'll start making pallets in Fort Wayne.
Amazing.
Eventually, when it's all over with, we want to have the largest pallet making business in the city or in the state of Indiana, and it's all run by kids who are dropped out on the street.
You know, there's so much that's going on here. I feel like I am remiss in not even knowing about this. And the first time that I was invited to a meeting and I heard what's going on right here in my city that's changing my city, to think that I did not know about this. We're just so blessed that you decided to branch out and come here. And I know that the kids already know that, because I've talked to some of the kids and they just have a completely different life. But to whom much is given, much is expected. And I know that they're all blessings and that you just keep giving back. Your humility is amazing to me, Rob, just from the short time that I've met you. And my city is truly blessed by what you've brought here. So I really invite you to find out more about Rob. Find out more about the Crossing School. Find out what's going on right here in my city, in your city, that maybe you didn't even know about, to the benefit of our kids. I know that we had in the newspaper about 3 weeks ago, on the front page was the picture of 17 kids who were dead because of issues and gunfire, and that just doesn't need to happen. And the first thing that we did when I went to this meeting was we prayed over that newspaper and we prayed over those souls, and we asked for God to send us those people, those kids that are out there feeling helpless and hopeless, and walk them to that door and walk them through the door. Can you help get those kids to the school? Can you help Rob to help change somebody's life? I really implore you to find those kids that right now are struggling and help them find their place. Offer them the Crossing School and find out how you can help Rob. Maybe it's just by praying. Just by praying is 180% of the importance of this school. Be in prayer for the Crossing School and what they're bringing to this city every day. Rob, thank you so much for being a part of my city, and thank you so much for your call, because it is not an easy one, but we are certainly blessed by you. Thank you for what you're bringing to Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Once again, Randy on the road. Hope that this was something that maybe you didn't know about. What can you do? You can give me a call. You can give Rob a call. See you next time.